click.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Trivium Quiz 2021 Answer Showcase. I'm your host, Manga Miser, and joined with me today are two of my wonderful helpers, Noffy Tea Coffee and PotassiumF. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Pretty late at night, but we're hanging in there for the very exciting stream that we're about to have here.
Yeah, we're actually spanning across 3 completely different time zones. Noffy, what time is it for you right now?
11 in the morning.
Yeah, and for me, it's 16 bang on UTC, and for Potassium, it's like
3 a.m. Nice and early. I woke up, of course. Definitely didn't stay awake.
Yeah. Anyway, today is a celebration of OS's quirky history, shaped by each and every member of the community. And we'll be taking a dive into the metaphorical OS iceberg, and hopefully by the end of it, we'll all have a good laugh. We know why you're all here, so without further ado, let's not waste any more time and dive right in. So, what is the OS Trivium Quiz? So the OS Trivium Quiz is a free-to-participate annual quiz event that takes place at the end of each year. The original concept was created in early 2020 by myself, and it was planned to be an OWC minigame. But the initial reception was that people thought it was too hard. And so the quiz was repurposed to a public event, and there it saw more success, and it was that became the OS Trivium Quiz 2020. This year's edition takes it a step further, as it has received some level of official support from the OS internal staff, as many of you would have no doubt saw from the news post, and much more care has been taken to ensure this year's experience is better than the previous, naturally with bigger questions and bigger prizes. As with last year, there are 2 primary objectives with the quiz. First objective is to get people to have fun and have a laugh at the end of the day. And the second is to get people to talk to each other and form lasting connections in the community. So, a bit of overview. The crux of the tournament has not changed, and so the rules are pretty much the same as last year. We have 50 ungoogleable questions. So by ungoogleable, we mean that a direct path to the answer is not obvious, which means you can't just obtain an answer by Googling a question, or you can't ask a named player. The quiz has a diverse range of topics. We aim to have a good variety of questions. So not every question was just like, when was this or what was this? There are 5 difficulties, and so easy, normal, hard, insane, extra, and they were worth 1 to 5 points respectively. And finally, participants had about a month to answer as many questions as they could. This year, we saw that there were about 50 registered teams with over 150 people participating. So definitely a bit of a step up from last year. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, so the rules of the competition here for the month duration was that, first of all, participants could form teams of up to 4 people. Some actually ended up going solo in the end. But a lot of 4-people teams we saw, and there were a lot of returning participants from last year and a lot of mixed-up teams as well. Also, one thing that was stressed was that every answer had to be alongside an explanation if you wanted to get full credit, just like with all of those maths tests in high school. You can't really cheese an answer by just kind of guessing. All of the questions were written with one particular answer in mind, but some questions, as we'll see later, had some alternate answers that were thought up that are equally interesting, so those got some credit given to them. And finally, the team with the highest total score at the end wins after the marking. So there was only one rule of the competition, and that is that you can't ask Mango Miser or Peppy for hints and answers, obviously because Mango Miser was the host. Thus, all strategies were fair play, and you could ask almost anyone for information. However, not everyone was obliged to help. So you could trade, you could bribe, and you could make up random facts to throw other teams off guard at Puffbuck.
That was a thing that happened, and we'll be diving into more detail about that later. But yeah, so the reason why there were only 2 people you could ask was that we didn't want to sort of restrict people from feeling that, oh, you can ask anyone except these people. Myself, it makes sense, and Pepe's a very busy guy, so we wanted to make everyone accessible, essentially.
So yeah, throughout the competition here, every there were some support resources being given. So there were fully formatted answer sheets in Google Sheets that were given to all the teams that they could kind of format their answers and send it in as solutions to aid with productivity. And every 3 days or so, as you can see in this graph here, a progress check was made. So this kind of kept everyone motivated, and we could see how many of the questions or how many points everyone collectively had earned. So if everyone in the entire competition kind of joined all their answers, or their correct answers, that is, together, these were the point tallies. And you could see a little bit of a dip somehow in the 5th of December, -1 point, which did happen. But towards the end of the quiz, there were also some hints provided by Mango, which made some of the more difficult questions a little bit more accessible, but still very, very hard.
All right, and before we start the answer showcase, I just want to quickly thank the people who helped out on the quiz. So obviously we have the aforementioned Noffy and Potassium, but also Andrew RK, who is also known as the OS enthusiast, and as well as the ancient mapper XBAT Charles 445, who also has he's got elite mapper title, right, Noffy?
Yes, because he won Aspire.
Yeah, he won
And he's
Aspire.
epic.
Like he won the first Aspire. So yeah, so a very wide, diverse pool of information. And we also had a couple playtesters. But back to the core helpers bit. So the core helpers helped find information and helped, to a certain extent, shape the questions, whereas the playtesters were more about essentially checking if the questions made sense. Had you asked any of these individuals for help, they wouldn't have turned you away. What would have effectively happened was basically they would say, "Oh, I don't understand that. Could you, like, what do you mean by that?" And then if you offered an interpretation, then they would try and help you to the best of their ability. But other than that, like they wouldn't obviously give answers out like free candy. There certainly wasn't an incident like this.
Definitely not.
Okay, and finally, thank you to all the artists and featured artists who contributed. These were from questions 30 to 40, and we'll be revealing these later. And so we begin. So, easy. And just before we begin, a reminder to please abide by any rules that we bring up throughout the showcase as we go through it. So, question 1. What is sharper than a cutting edge? The answer is a laser. Okay, and why is it a laser? Well, let's listen to this video from the very first
but yeah, as I was
meeting.
saying, I won't be pushing it as an update alongside cutting edge, because the end goal is to have it available in the client alongside stable, beta, cutting edge, and laser, where laser is like, more cutting than a cutting edge laser. Get it?
I guess because someone just brought this.
Yeah, so there you have it. The first question, the answer to the first question is a laser, because laser is more cutting than cutting edge. It was the easiest question. It was a very entry-level question. Guys, what do you think?
Hilarious joke. Got the whole squad laughing there. But yeah, pretty basic question there. I think a lot of teams got it right, which was
I think
nice.
over 70%, almost 80% of the teams got this one right. So yeah, it was fairly straightforward.
You can also find it on the OS GitHub repository. It's in the description in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's a there's a section in the GitHub that talks about how laser is the future, and it's more cutting edge than cutting edge. Anyway, rapidly moving on. Question 2. Now, the answer to question 2 is NWolf. And for the purposes of the stream, please do not discuss this question in the chat. The explanation can be found on the server if you're curious, and we are just going to move on from here.
All right, so for question 3, on which ending can you find mostly motivational messages for every stumble you make along the way? Well, this is related to a Beatmap, and it's related to a storyboard. So this map is the ending of Nier Automata, from my understanding, and it has a storyboard where if you make any mistakes, it'll show you a bunch of motivational messages written by a lot of different OS players, over 260. And they passed the map while it was unranked. They kind of wrote those motivational messages to help other people play. And Happy 30, the mapper, designed this to be similar to something that happens in the game. And I don't want to spoil the game. You can play it if you want to see what's similar in it. And there's a lot of weird messages. There's a lot of normal messages throughout. And Mango, why didn't you watch the video?
Sorry. Oops, sorry. My scroll wheel kind of went crazy there. Oops. Okay, so let's watch the video. Wait, I couldn't hit the video. I'm trying to hit the play button. There we go.
So we have a replay here where they miss some notes and you can kind of see it in action. So this reacts based off of how you play, kind of interactive, kind of cool.
Honestly, I think it's impressive that people can come up with storyboards that trigger on certain conditions. I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, it's the best. Wait, alright, there it goes!
Yeah, so I'm going to pause there and you can see some really weird messages. Yes, it's beautiful, but you should take a break and play some more Happy 30 maps. There's a self-promotion there. And there are others. It goes on. So, yeah.
Some of them are normal. But this is an OS community contributed storyboard, so there you have it.
Yeah, so motivational messages. All right, moving on to question 4. Question 4. Who has already made their VTuber debut on osulive? And the answer, as you saw earlier, thanks to my scroll wheel, the answer is Mocha, right? And so why is it Mocha? So let's have a look at this video. All right. So, originally conceived, in about late 2020, I commissioned a live 2D model of Mocha, and the art was done by the artist 157 to debut in TWC 2021. I proposed Mocha as an idea to use to fill time between matches. Like maybe she could read out a couple of tweets or do like the recap or something. But to cut a long story short, it was not greenlit. So bit bummed out there, but But there was this one exception. So at the start of the TWC stream, in the very first countdown, Mocha had her little head peek moment on osulive, where she kind of stuck her head at the corner for like a second. Yep, and that's all we see of Mocha. But worry not, we will be seeing more of Mocha.
I was back in the Ostico World Cup live stream in early 2021. Kind of dropped by, said hi. You might have seen me then. If you had super sharp eyes, that is.
Very cool. Okay, then. So
She's
we're moving
alive.
on. It's real. Okay. Question 5 now. Which player gave up their global #1 position on their own terms? Now, the answer to this one, before you answer, is not Cookie Z, as a lot of people initially thought, but it is in fact Xgon. So this is, of course, a fact relating to Catch the Beat, or Osu Catch, and it comes from the 29th of April 2016. So on this date, Xgon was the #1 in the world, and he had a DTSS score on Akatsuki no Tsuki with a and actually overwrote the score with a hidden SS. So at the time, there were no separate leaderboards for different mod combinations, so using a different mod combination and getting a higher score actually overwrote the score completely. So by getting a higher score with the hidden mod, Xgon's second highest score was overwritten and lost about 400 PP. So it went from 861 PP to 427. And because of that, Xgon actually intentionally lost the #1 spot on the global ranking.
Yeah, it's almost like saying, like, yeah, you didn't overtake me. I let you become #1.
Yeah, like the
such an
ultimate
XCOM
DM.
move. Yeah, so that's XCON for you.
Xgon is the only one capable of overtaking Xgon in
This
reality.
was like 5 years ago, and XCon's still around today, so that's really cool. It's amazing how some players just stick around for the longest time. All right, moving on to question 6. In a single World Cup match, what was the highest number of times a map was nullified? And the answer is 4 times. So what does the question mean? So when a map is nullified, it means that there's effectively the song has to be replayed. So this can happen for a number of reasons, most commonly because it's of a score tie. So during CWC 2018, on the map times 10, okay, the map was played not once, twice, but a total of 5 times, right? So they played the map and they got like a 6-way SS. So Sweden versus Germany, 6-way SS. So they had to replay it. And then both teams had one player drop a single droplet and they got the same score. So they had to play it again. And again. And again. So they replayed it four times, and then on the 5th time, finally, Germany, Tenshi Chan, found a miss finally on the 5th attempt. So this is absolutely ridiculous, and I believe since then, CWC has made it a point to make some of the maps a bit harder. But yeah, so the answer to this question is 4 times.
Yeah, absolutely heartbreaking as well.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being the guy, like essentially the one FC, the one non-FC out of 30 FCs. Like, that's just gotta hurt.
I feel like at that point, someone would be just like, I'm tired of playing this map. I'm gonna give up. Goodbye.
The thing is, like, with the nullification rule, at least back then, I'm not sure if it's changed since, but you can't swap out the players as well. So if you draw, you have to have the exact same players. So you have to play again until a winner is decided. And unfortunately, I don't think this match was streamed at all. So there's no record for this happening. Like, it's just, I mean, there's the MP link, but like, it was never on stream. So it's a bit of a bummer we missed out on this one.
Would have been very exciting. And an extremely long match as well.
Longest group stage match, maybe.
But moving on here, we've got question 7. how can you achieve a perfect score without an FC? So this question relates to Mania. So we have, I believe, our first Mania-related question, and this comes from ScoreV1 in Osumania, where if you double tap the start of a long note fast enough, it is possible to break combo while still maintaining a 200 judgment. And as we can see here, excuse the default skin. But right there, if you can see the double tap fast enough at the start, this was a 1 millisecond gap in this score, and it will still show a perfect score at the bottom there, even though you broke combo. And the reason for that is because the full combo perfect little picture that comes at the bottom graph appears based on the existence of 100s, 50s, or misses. So it doesn't actually check whether it's a full combo or not.
Fixed in laser TM?
Possibly. It's fixed in ScoreV2, that is.
Oh.
So
okay.
yeah, this is not possible in ScoreV2. Only ScoreV1.
Oh, cool. Didn't know that.
Trivia Masters learning trivia.
Yeah, you learn something new
Fun
every
fact.
day. Right. Okay, right. So question 8. When did the OS community unite together to do a little bit of green for the environment? I've got a lot of things to say about this one. The intended answer, which no one got, by the way, the intended answer is STK9. Okay, this is like a 6-digit tournament, 5 to 6-digit tournament. It's a long-running tournament. There's been 9 editions so far. It's hosted by Fairy Bread, formerly known as Ill Onion. And throughout this tournament, the tournament accepted donations. 50% went to the prize pool, and the rest of it went to Team Trees, which is a fundraiser initiative started by Mr. Beast and Mark Rober, where trees are planted across the world. The amount of money raised was quite substantial for sort of this mid-range tournament, and it was enough to plant 1,700 trees. So that's a lot of trees to reduce our carbon footprint. And so that's the premise of the question, doing a little bit of green for the environment. Now, I noticed a lot of teams put COE 2019 as the answer and the trash cleanup. So during COE 2019, like a bunch of people littered all over like a hill or something, and they organized together to do a cleanup. Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's called cleaning up after yourself, and that's carbon neutral because so it's not doing green for the environment. You haven't done anything. You just picked up your own trash. So that was not acceptable as an answer. So I'm sorry. But then other answers, which mentioned Team Trees, like Vaxay donating to Team Trees, that was acceptable. But the COE one, like you thought you were clever, but no, that's carbon neutral. So sorry, that was not acceptable as an answer. But yeah, that was quite funny. So yeah, that's question 8. Okay.
All right, so for question 9, we want to describe how you can get 3 mutuals without requiring any input from another user. So, BanchoBot and Zalius automatically have everyone friended. So if you go to the website, you click the friend button on them, it's going to happen. They'll have you as a friend too. The last one is no longer possible because it's been fixed. So
as of a couple hours ago.
Well, yes. So in the past, on the old website, you used to be able to do like URL editing shenanigans and add yourself as a friend. So using you, yourself, and you. Oh, that doesn't even work. Okay, so me, myself, and I could have 3 people as friends. Yay, now my friends list isn't so empty anymore.
My friends list is pale in comparison to Zalius and Bancho feels bad, man. But yeah, this one a lot of people got right, so that's good. But I think the elusive ones were definitely... Everyone knows about BanchoBot, but the elusive ones were certainly Zalius and the self-mutual thing.
All right, so this one was a bit of a doozy. There was a lot of research involved on our parts just to figure this out. So, question 10. Identify the individual that makes up or is a part of the highest number of featured artist groups. So, the answer to this is Ryu. He's the lead guitarist from Bloodstained Child and Yuzu Kingdom, and he's also part of Dual Alter World. So, he's officially in 3 different groups that are featured artists, and this number may grow in the future as we get more featured artists twice a week. And there were quite a lot of other possible answers people would think of, like with vocalists and singers collabing on different songs, but they weren't actually part of the groups, so those answers would not count.
Yeah, so like a lot of teams mention stuff like, oh, it's Camellia because like everyone collabs with Camellia, or it's Itsuki Nakuru or something, like because she's featured as a singer like in so many places. But that's not what the question was asking. The question was making up or at least part of the featured artist group and not being guest featured. And we tried to make this very clear, but some teams just either were unable to see this or didn't find the answer. But yeah, the answer is Ryu. So with that, that's the easy section out of the way. These questions weren't particularly challenging, but that was the easy. Anyway, moving on to the normals. It's questions 11 to 20, and which are worth 2 points each. Potassium, take it away.
Okay, so the first one worth 2 points here, question 11. How has a robot been subliminally reminding players how to play the game for over 6 years? This one was the voice lines from the song that you will have heard very many times, Nekodex Circles. So I believe we have a bit of an audio file to play here. Oh, might need to go back and forward again.
I heard it like for like a millisecond.
Yep.
There we go. Click the circles. I mean, do we really need to play this? Everyone's heard this song already.
We don't know what it sounds like, but just in case, maybe someone hasn't played the game before here for whatever reason. But this voice, as we can see in the tweet here by Nekodex, the voice in this comes from Mac OS text-to-speech, so kind of like a robot, with a lot of processing involved to make it sound like the way it does. So, fun little fact there.
Yeah. Did you know to play OS, you need to click the circles? Like, I didn't know that. Could
to the beat as well.
Yeah, to the beat. That's very important.
Yep.
That's very important.
If you don't click them to the beat, you're going to get a lot of misses.
All right, so for question 12, on which day was the OS community cured from a widespread case of dysnomia? I hope I pronounced dysnomia correctly. So what happened was, this would be June 17th, 2015. So any name change that took place before this date was not recorded. It's lost to history. A really good example of this would be HVIC 225, formerly known as Snow White, which was a little bit easier to read, but this information cannot be accessed on the website. It's just gone. This information about when the change happened can be found on the changelog, where they added callback support for paid name changes.
Yeah, so I think, so on the new website you can hover, and there's like a card you can hover, and it shows all the usernames, but it only recorded it up from this day onward. So, like, for instance, on the user called Anna Apple, I think, or is it Anna Apple anymore? Like, who's got like 17 name changes or something. Like, you can see all the name changes, but everyone knows HVIC had a previous username, but we can't actually see that on the new website anymore. So yeah, it was done on this day. We actually got a lot of alternative answers for this one, which received credit. I think I can't quite remember. Potassium, it was something about April Fools or something.
Yeah, I remember one team in particular. I remember reading one answer about an April Fools. I forgot which year, but there was an April Fools on the old website where certain number of users randomly got a flashlight effect or a hidden effect, which like removed text from the screen and or like put a little flashlight thing over your cursor. So their answer was April 2nd of that year, which I thought was pretty cool because it was like you're cured of, forgetting all the words on the website.
Yeah. So in case it wasn't clear, the question asks for cured. So like after June 17th, everyone could start remembering everyone's old usernames, which is the dysnomia. For those uninformed, dysnomia, which we forgot to define, by the way, is the inability to recall names. That was kind of important. We mentioned that. Oops.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to question 13. Which Beatmap briefly resulted in the user losing PP for submitting a score on it? Bit of hindsight, but I wasn't entirely happy with this question. But the answer is Solvicious from... it's the catch convert of Solvicious. And here's a deleted Reddit post, which had... So there's a map of Solvicious where the convert was like 10 stars or something. And if you added... It was like 12 stars or something. And then you added HR, it's like 16 stars. But obviously it wasn't 16 stars. It was just like a bit of a error in the way catch calculated difficulty that made it give way too much PP. This was noticed very quickly, and so the PP value set for that score was 0. And as a consequence of that, a lot of people got Solvicious on their top play, but then the PP was set to 0. However, it still stayed at the top play, or a very high play for that matter. So basically what happened was your first play would be worth 0, and then your next play would be worth 95%. And therefore, actually setting a score on this map would cause you to lose PP because it pushed every single score below it down, and that score was worth 0. So yeah, like this map is so difficult that you lose PP only temporarily. But in hindsight, we should have actually rephrased the question to something like which impossibly difficult map briefly resulted, etc. But I mean, we weren't aware that there were so many other cases of this kind of thing happening.
Or that the rework would take place within the same month as the quiz starting. So everyone was losing PP for setting scores as it recalculated.
Yeah, that was a thing as well. And those were all acceptable answers because, I mean, we don't penalize anyone for, like, I mean, it's technically correct. So, it's correct. You can't mark it wrong. So, but yeah, this was a catch question, catch convert.
Okay, question 14 now. We've got another Mania question coming in here, bit of a spoiler. But when did Osu accidentally send over 400 dancing tacos to harass a stupid man? So this one, a few things to unpack in this question might sound a bit weird, but this comes from the MWC 7K 2019 Finals Week 1 match of Brazil versus the United States. So what happened in this match is during it, the stream box that streams on the osulive that we are using right now suddenly shut down because of maintenance. So to solve this, the osulive channel hosted one of the players that was playing in the match, Stupid Man, spelt with a U instead of an I, who was playing in the match at the time. So there were about 400 viewers there, and a lot of them ended up following Stupid Man's channel, and that resulted in a huge amount of these tacos popping up on his screen here, as you can see.
Fucking, oh my god. Oh shit, I should disable follow notifications. Oh my god.
I think the chat went a bit rampant here.
No, stop, fuck, please stop following, please stop following.
And then someone donated like $1 or something. It's so funny.
Yeah.
We just wait like 5 seconds.
No, please, fuck, no. Oh my god.
Yeah, this goes on for like several minutes. It's quite funny.
Yeah,
like,
just in the middle of a really intense finals week match in a World Cup. They still actually won the map, which is pretty impressive given how like ridiculously distracting it was the entire time.
Yeah, I think his stream was dying from getting like 400 viewers or something. But,
Yeah. There was also some lag, I believe, on Stupid Man's end there.
Yeah. Also, fun fact, but when I looked up this spot, I saw like Puff, and I was like, oh, of course he's there. Of course he's there.
Of course.
Yeah, but there's a lot of recognizable names there. All right, moving on to question 15. Which World Cup matches are still in progress to this day? And the answer is the TWC 2018 group stage matches. Now, so how are they still in progress? Well, if we look at, we take a dive back to April of 2018 during group stage, the tournament server wasn't feeling that good that day. Like, it just wasn't feeling its usual self. And so there was a lot of unexpected behavior. And I think it eventually crashed in the middle of some matches, and specifically the last two matches, although it happened for some other matches. And if you look at the MP links, it's all accessible on the wiki, by the way. But if you look at the MP link, you'll notice that at the bottom of the match is actually still in progress. And we don't show it here, but this thing is still spinning. You can check it right now if you want. But basically, these players have been in this lobby for forever. It's still taking place. This match hasn't concluded. You know, like, we've done TWC 2019 to 2021, but like 2018, it's still haven't decided. You know. So yeah, there's like a couple matches that I think there were like 5 matches that have this interesting behavior. But yeah, tournament server was definitely not feeling okay on that day. Okay, moving on to question 16.
This is my favorite one. So, how many times should you ring to make a deal with the devil? The answer is twice. So, I'm going to post the link to the map in the chat. Here you go, guys. So, what happened was, like, how many times should you ring? Like dialing a number. The number of the beast is 666, and the set ID is 666-666. So the answer is twice. And so Risen, the mapper, had this really big brain idea where they somehow got that exact set ID and uploaded a map of Deal with the Devil by Tia. Another acceptable answer was 1001, where you add it again and again, 666 plus 666 plus 666 plus 666, but no one went that route.
Yeah, I mean, this question stumped a lot of people. I don't think anyone got the intended answer, and this was originally in hard, I believe, and we had to push it down because there was like an overlap with a question. But yeah, this was definitely quite difficult for its stage, but yeah, so no one was able to get any credit on it, I think.
All they had to do was put in 666 for the side.
Yeah, just search 666. Funnily enough, no, wait.
It's in the question.
No. Someone got credit on this, actually. There's a really funny story that I want to share. So this ties back to the whole why did the progress chart dip down a point? One team had a bright idea of iterating the question. So for the first time there was a progress check, they put once and then they get it right. And then the next 3 days later, they put twice and they got a point. So then the progress check went up by 1 point. And then the next week they iterated one again. So they put thrice, so 3 times, and then went back down. So then they were like, okay, well, we'll go up 1 again. And if it's still wrong, then we'll go back to twice and we know it's the right answer. Unfortunately for them, another team got the answer right. So they went on to 4. And then another team did the same thing, basically. And so they got the answer right. So the progress chart went back up. And then the original team was like, maybe it wasn't twice after all. So then they just moved on and they kept iterating to 5 times, 6 times. And they never got the answer right, which is really sad.
Unlucky.
Yeah, it's been
so close yet so far from making their deal.
Yeah.
So close. -1 point.
Yeah. Bit of additional subtext to the question. A deal with the devil. We included that phrasing because, I mean, how else could you obtain the set ID of 6 6s? You'd have to literally make a deal with the devil to achieve that sort of witchcraft.
Yeah.
All right. On question 17, which OWC participant was forced to compete with a mouse following a heated incident? Now, this is a fairly recent event. And this took place in OWC 2021, so only like 2 months ago, a month or two ago. And the answer is Sanji Lift. Now, so what happened here? So, essentially, this is in Portuguese, but what this translates, is quite literally, I'll have to play with a mouse. My nephew melted my pen in the stove. Right? So quite literally a heated incident, sticking a pen in an oven. I don't know why. I guess nephews be nephews. And thus he was forced to compete with a mouse because his tablet pen was, it was in disrepair. So
it's not exactly look usable.
It doesn't really look functional, unfortunately. I don't even know. Like you cannot make this shit up, right?
Yeah, sometimes you just can't question the thought process that leads to these things. Putting a tablet pen into an oven, but it happens. Sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, I mean, family.
Yeah, you have your tablet pen, on a ledge right above your oven tray for whatever reason. You accidentally knock it in. Accidents happen like that.
Happy accidents. You remember last year we had a question about the mattress and Gil's brother standing in front of the window for 2 hours?
I do know that.
Yeah, only in Brazil.
A lot of scuff tournament trivia out there waiting to be found. But either way, I think we're moving on to the next question now, which was, which player was caught using 2 pairs of headphones to overcome some mental gymnastics? So I think quite a lot of people got this one right. The answer was, of course, Tobus, or T-Tobus, also known as Mentali, who is a catch player who, in a video on Pepe's YouTube channel, was shown to be playing the map Atama no Taiso at Japan Expo 2015. So, of course, in this video, as you can see there, he is wearing 2 pairs of headphones at the same time. And the mental gymnastics refers to what the name of the map translates to. So Atama no Taiso roughly translates to head exercise. So quite literally some mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
I think that the 2 headphone buff is pretty powerful. He's got this.
He's still playing. I think he still competes in catch, so, this is like 6 years ago, so. And there were other acceptable answers, and there were other incidents where people might have scored partial credit, but this was definitely the intended answer.
Yeah. I think there were a lot of partial credits potentially for the 2 pairs of headphones part, but mental gymnastics is quite a strong tie to this specific map.
All right.
Or the song, rather.
All right, so for question 19, this is the one that people actually thought to ask me about, because I'm the metadata person. Anyways, which ranked map had a song source that came out of a dream? So this would be Nightmare, Dream to Nightmare, mapped by Stan for Mania. So back in 2018, this map was initially qualified with a song source in the Groove 3. The problem was, In the Groove 3 doesn't exist. It was planned for release in the mid-2000s, but it was never actually realized, and so the quoted source is made up and didn't count as a source. Metadata moments here.
Yeah, it's literally like, imagine if you say like, oh, this is from like Street Fighter 7, it just doesn't exist. You can't just quote something that doesn't exist. So literally came out of a dream, made it up, and the dream ties to the dream to nightmare, and that's how this question. A lot of other answers scored partial credit on this one. Some people put Ether Ritual, I think, which was made by Argentine Dream, which is also like creditable because, the word
It
Trivium.
was trivia. It was related. It fit all the qualifiers in the question. So congrats on the people that got the alternate credit.
Yeah, but no one got the intended answer, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a lot of questions, I feel like, that didn't get the intended answer as well.
And finally, the boss question of the normal section: what is considered just as epic as achieving number 1 on an OS leaderboard? And the answer is a Beatmap receiving a leaderboard, ranked, loved, or qualified status. Now, why is this? So on the old OS website, there is a website called the events page, and it documents every single event that happens on OS. So when someone sets a score, that's an event. When someone earns a medal, when someone buys OS supporter, all events are documented. Each event on this website is assigned an epic factor, and it's kind of like Reddit, where like the higher the epic factor, the longer it stays on the page, and it gets slowly floated down to the bottom. So, for instance, buying supporter is epic 2, and getting a medal is epic 4. Okay, which directly correlates, and this directly correlates with how long a message lasts on this page. So, if something is epic 2, it lasts for 2 minutes. If something's epic 4, it lasts for 4 minutes. So, achieving number 1 on an OS leaderboard is considered epic 8. So, at least a leaderboard with many scores. So, it's epic 8. So, and the only other events that are capable of achieving epic 8. So, this is, if you go F12, you can see the epic thing. The only other events that are considered epic 8 are Beatmap ranked or qualified, but this is a slightly outdated post, so Love didn't exist back then. So Loved also counts as epic 8. Map played X times, so like say the big black dot played 1,000,000 times, and you get an epic 8. Or first place in O standard only, so that's what this is. So yeah, so some people actually put the announced status change, and that's not strictly true because it's epic 5, so it's slightly less epic than a Beatmap getting ranked or qualified. According to this Reddit post, which dug through some API stuff, there is the potential for something of epic 16 and epic 32, but I don't think any events are actually assigned to that yet. But yeah, that's question 20. So what is considered just as epic as getting number 1 on a leaderboard, and that's a Beatmap getting a leaderboard.
Epic 32, Peppy finally bought his OS jet funded by all the OS coins.
Oh, only for 32 minutes. All right, we're going to move into hard, and this is the point. So the first 20 questions are fairly straightforward. Once we reach hard territory, this is where things start to get a bit more out there. That's probably the best way to phrase it. Anyway.
Okay, so 21 here. Which user obtained a badge for doing absolutely nothing against a worthy adversary? Now, this question, a very big emphasis on the phrase absolutely nothing. So the intended answer, there were a lot of answers that got credit for this, but the intended answer was Rek. So this comes from a community I am very familiar with, which is the Australian Mania community. And this was from the 2017 tournament in 4-Key Mania for the Australian-New Zealand community. And there was an incident there where basically in the grand finals week, there was only one match to be played between Rek and Shirinisu. So the organizers, the hosts of the tournament, essentially let the two players discuss their own times. And basically what ended up happening was for an entire week, there was a gigantic amount of back and forth miscommunication and just lack of communication, such that a time was never agreed on throughout the entire week. And what ended up happening was neither player ended up turning up to any match. No match ended up happening for grand finals at all. And the decision was made at the end to award the badge to Rek because, basically just because his attitude was better. He tried slightly harder to organize a time from what the host could see. And this was also pretty cool because Rek was the one coming from loser's bracket, and he was heavily Basically, Shironisu would have won the tournament if the match were to be played. But yep, anyway, in the end, Rek got the badge, got the Supreme Champion title, and on the challenge link, the Worthy Adversary title went to Shironisu for second place. So, really funny to look back on now, but at the time, there was a lot of anger involved.
I think it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, a lot of people got partial credit because the whole Worthy Adversary thing is like, oh, you came second place or something. But like, the emphasis is on doing absolutely nothing. I mean, like, if your opponent forfeits or just no-shows, like, that's happened a couple times, unfortunately, throughout the history of OS. But like, if your opponent no-shows, you at least showed up to the match. Like, that's doing something. Like, you were there. For this case, they didn't even do anything. They didn't even show up.
They didn't even manage to get a time. I'll add another pretty funny tidbit at the end here that I don't think I've told Mango even. That before awarding the badge, Rek specifically told the host that he did not want to get the win. Because he didn't feel like he deserved it because Shironisu was, heavily favored, was the better player at the time. But the host just says, no, you get the badge.
But yeah, this is old history, 2017. So I don't think this sort of thing would fly in this environment, but it's part of...
No. And this was before Badged became like a big thing with screenings and all that. So this was very much a very casual tournament overall.
All right, question 22. To what exploited feature of the OS website do we lose some very brave souls? Now, this is a question. This piece of information was kindly provided by Charles. He actually helped out with a lot of hard questions, and this is the first of them. And the answer is the ability to autoplay YouTube videos on forum posts. So, this is a bit of a long story, but back in 2012, on the forums, you used to be able to make YouTube videos just autoplay when loading up a web page. And so what happened was a group of users decided to flood basically some threads with this, along with 100 GIFs. And this basically caused the forums to literally implode every time you load them. And so what inevitably happened was that Peppy loaded up a forum thread and it was blasted by 20 videos. We can't show the video on stream because it's kind of rude, okay? But the 20 videos started playing simultaneously. And they basically permanently banned all the users, although most of them are unbanned now after they apologized. It's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction there. But yeah, so if you saw the video, you'd understand. What's most interesting about this is that a very uncommon use for this was that people would hide an autoplay YouTube video in their profile page. And so what this allowed you to do was basically simulate background music for your user profile. So whenever you loaded someone's background music, you could bury it under like millions of boxes. And so you could just have music playing on your profile. And that was really cool. So yeah. So we lost some very, very brave soldiers that day, which were the people who were doing this exploit.
Posted 10 years ago for that saucy Deep lore.
Yeah, I'd love if you could set background music to your user profile, but it'd definitely be exploited, so unfortunate.
Yeah, unfortunate there. So this next one here, one that I think a lot of people will be able to recognize once we show the answer, is which ancient mapper opened Pandora's box for showcases in the future? So this one was quite a recent event, actually, happened this year, and it was Starrod Kirby 86 in his My finale run in SGDQ Summer Games Done Quick 2021. So this was earlier in the year. Starrod Kirby is an ancient mapper, user number 410, in fact, that is well known for the Kirby Mix beat maps that are ranked. And basically, earlier this year, in the speedrun event, he got accepted to play My on stream for approximately 100,000 people and managed to raise $191,000 for charity. And
Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah, for Doctors Without Borders, and was the third highest amount for the entire event out of any game. So one of the stretch goals for this that was achieved, of course, was to play the hardest song in the game, which is Pandora Paradox, which is obviously what the link is to Pandora's Box here. So I can play the video.
Yep.
My God. I think you guys
Honestly, Watson's enthusiasm.
Oh my God. But you know what? We're over here.
Here we go,
Final
boys
showdown.
and girls and everyone in between. Pandora Paradox Remaster, level 14. I lied again. 13 plus wasn't the highest. It's 14. And that's
A fun fact, the caster in the background is Rave, who is one of our beloved MWC casters as well.
You just spoke right
Yep,
to my
of
mouth.
course.
This is why we saved it for the last.
Ravel,
Remaster, level
MWC caster, and also a pretty prolific Mania mapper.
exhibition. Let's get some hype.
Oh, he's taking a while to get started.
Yep.
But yeah,
You can skip ahead a little bit, but
yeah, we could.
Let's go. Pandora.
But so we can talk a bit about how this question makes sense. So essentially,
Pandora box.
sorry, Rave, I'm gonna have to turn you down. But essentially, what Star Wars Kirby did on that day was essentially show that rhythm game. I think in the past, SGD like GDQs have not had like a really big rhythm game presence because I mean, how do you speed run a rhythm game? Like you can't.
It's not like a typical speed run to do, and of course, it being like an arcade game, generally being offline events like LAN events, they haven't really shown many speedruns or showcases of rhythm games. But this year, obviously with COVID, they managed to get some remote setups going and actually accepted some rhythm games and ended up being like massively successful. So it would be pretty exciting for the future.
You know, like it's really opened the doors for showcases to be rhythm game showcases for the future. So that was the So that was
obviously showed quite a large like community interest, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that said, question 24. How did an S-rank play save a map from being unranked? So that would be Raruchi's S-rank on Nado, Miss You. So allegedly, as the story goes, Peppy happened to be streaming on April 3rd in 2014, and some wisecracks decided to bring this map to his attention. And naturally, he looked at the map, he didn't like it because back then this map was really, really out there. It's kind of normal for today's standard, which kind of shows how influential it was. But he looks at it, dislikes it, because it's hard to parse in general, and he's a big Nado fan, so it's like an insult to his favorite music. And it ticks all the boxes for being kind of infuriating. So he put on a show about it, but he noticed that there was a score on the map where Raruchi got an S on it. So he watched the replay on his stream, showing off his fancy replay viewing tool to the world. And as he analyzed this replay, he stepped away from it and said in the chat something like, "I can't unrank this, not with a play like this on it." And this was actually also kind of covered in a Pishy Fat mapping interview video, which is the only reason this would be hard instead of like insane in level. So thank you, Raruchi, you saved the map and you saved OS mapping forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare. I mean, it's rare. We have like NET for these sort of things these days, but it's really cool that, you know, like stuff like this can happen. There are no logs of this anywhere aside from this post that Peppy did on the forum thread. So yeah, there's no VOD of it. It's just from memory. Again, this information was provided by Charles, so thank you to him for being sort of an encyclopedic knowledge of ancient mapping. Well, it's not that ancient. It's 2014, which is about as old as. Oh yeah. Anyway,
And okay, so this one happened when I was an OS baby, so oops, sorry everyone. I kind of witnessed it happen, and I wasn't actually involved. So, in a landmark prosecution case, which user was allowed to exercise their habeas corpus rights, albeit falling on deaf ears? Okay, so this would be Monstrata. So, following several transgressions, Monstrata was removed from the BNG during 2017. There's a lot of reasons as to why, and the reasons are detailed in this public screenshot. It was on Reddit, it had like 1 billion upvotes and everything, it's classic drama moments. And it's like water under the bridge at this point, hopefully. But it was very interesting back then, because he did try to get a hearing, and...
No. He was given a hearing. He was allowed to have a hearing.
He was given a hearing.
Yeah.
And so, also, Monstrata is literally deaf in one ear, so that's the key word, and people actually got it. Thank you, Mingo, for actually making this question doable. So it was an interesting time back then. So one example was a map that Monstrata qualified with a 20 Taiko map, Itsuwari Nudos, I hope I pronounced that right, and then was asked to, he was a standard BN. He qualified a Taiko map. And so he was asked to take a BN test for Taiko and Catch, and people suspected it was a move to get him kicked. I don't know. But then he passed with flying colors. He's a Taiko main now, getting the highest score on the Taiko BN test in history. So there's lots of interesting dynamics from that. And soon after, there was this dismissal, and as we mentioned, Monstrata was allowed to represent himself in a quote-unquote hearing of sorts, where he explained himself, and it didn't get anywhere, and he stayed removed from the group anyways. And this question, Mingo wrote it with a lot of law terms to give a hint towards Monstrata, because he's in law. And deaf ears, another hint towards Monstrata, so congratulations to the people that got this.
Yeah, and just to clarify, habeas corpus is the right to, essentially, your habeas corpus rights are you cannot be convicted of a crime if you're not present for it. So you have to be, you have the right to a fair trial, essentially. So Monstrata had the right to a hearing. You can't, you couldn't kick him from the BNG. He was being tried for all these bullet points, right? So he was given the right to defend himself in court, quote unquote court. It was like a Discord channel with a couple QAT, but then it fell on deaf ears. So there's a lot of juicy things packed into this one question, and a couple people were able to get leads, but no one was able to get the full credit. I think someone put Monstrata but didn't explain it well, and someone explained it but didn't get the right answer, and it was kind of it's a bit of it was a tricky one, and I actually enjoyed writing this one very much. And that is the halfway point of the quiz. So that's question 25. And with that, question 26. This story is another very funny story. So question 26, how did summoning the Forbidden One almost, keyword on almost, cost an arm and a leg? And the answer is the CWC 2017 US Exodia collab. Right. So basically, in CWC 2017, the US team had a collab with Zach as the team captain, playing the role of Yukimoto, and every other team member being Exodia. So you got Sponge, Chicken Bible, Kevris, Dell, and Ascendance. And they were like a stacked team. They made it through to the semifinals. And so what happened after the semifinal stage, Ascendance was involved in some drama, I think. And he got restricted or something, and I can't remember whether he was restricted or he was not allowed to play. And basically, in any case, he was not allowed to play, and so he lost. The team lost a leg, right? We lost Ascendance, and then the almost bit could refer to two things. The first thing, the intended answer, actually, we'll talk about the answer that people put instead. A couple of years later, like a year later, image material was ranked in something, and I think Kevris and Chicken Bible, currently known as Sekre, they set a score on it, and they set 1,500 PP player on it or something, and they got auto-restricted because it was way too high of a number, and this was back when catch PP was crazy rampant. And that's how another arm was almost lost, because they were quickly reverted. Or the intended answer, which is Zach in 2020 actually got involved in he was hit by a car, and he went into coma for a couple of days, and like after surgery he almost had to have his arm amputated. Kind of morbid, I know, but essentially he almost lost his arm. He's got metal in his arm now. So the question is, how did summoning the Forbidden One almost cost an arm and leg? The leg is Ascendance, and the arm is Zach's arm. So pretty crazy logic right there, but that's the story. So yeah. Dude, we should see more collabs like this. This is a great collab.
This is a fantastic collab, yeah.
It's the best. Proof of catch supremacy.
Moving on to another question that has small hints all over it. We have, where would scratching for PP be more than just a fantasy? Now, I think a couple of people in chat would know of this answer in particular, but this is Pipe Dream. And let's explain through it a little bit. So Pipe Dream is a standard map from 2009, but we are looking specifically at the Mania autoconvert of it. So the interesting thing about this autoconvert is that it is 7K by default, but if you put on the 8-key mod, the star rating shoots up from about 4 stars to 6.2 stars because of something that you can see in this video.
Yeah, so you can see
as you can see,
convert, yeah.
So putting on the 8-key modifier shoots it up to 6 stars entirely. And if you skip along the video, you can see why. So it's a fairly innocent autoconvert, but then the extra key does this on the left side. And the link to the question here is that in what is called 7+1 key, which is effectively 8 key in Beatmania, the very left column, like this, is called a scratch column. So this is effectively a case of excessive use of scratch. So scratching for PP, being that this used to be somewhat of a PP farm map for the top players. You can still see it in the top ranks of some extremely old top players, some Koreans that have stopped playing now.
Oh, that's awful.
But scratching for PP, meaning that you're using the scratch note in the left column excessively to farm for PP, more than just referring to you are adding an extra column, so it's more than just the 7 columns, and the word fantasy alluding to the name of the map itself, Pipe Dream, meaning fantasy.
Yeah, throughout this, we also found the etymology of the phrase pipe dream. You can look that up in your own time. It's quite interesting, actually. But
yeah.
Anyway, scratching for PP. Yeah, this was again a lot of stuff embedded in this question, and trying to write this question was hell. I remember spending
this spent a very long time to write. But
yeah, we had the idea for 2 months. And then we were trying to how do we make a question out of this? It was so annoying.
There was another answer I really liked a lot, where one team submitted an ancient feature request where someone came up with a game mode where you would be a DJ and doing a scratch movement on that.
Oh, that's
but of course,
yeah.
As we know, that mode never got implemented because it's not in OS today, but people have played the game by hooking up scratch tables as a controller, which is a very interesting.
That is 2DX controllers. So Beatmania controllers are very popular, especially with the top level Korean players. That they actually learned to play the game on those controllers, so they play it at Nosumania as well.
Dude,
so that's just some interesting trivia.
People got DT scores on this. It's ridiculous.
There's DT scores on this map. Yeah. And it did give a lot of PP for the time.
They're all freaking octopi. Swear to God. Okay. Question 28. This is yet another graphic tale. Which map pool selector was unable to claim hazard pay while on the job? This is the one question that is actually tied to myself. I try not to include too much about myself. I actually actively try and stay away from including questions about myself because it would be too obvious. It's not the Mango quiz. It's my quiz, but it's not about me. It's about the community. And the answer to this is Backfire. Now, what's up with this story? So basically, this happened earlier this year, and essentially during a map pooling session. Okay, this is really stressful. Okay, so during TWD 2021, I was map pooling with Backfire, and he went outside for a walk, but he stayed connected to his PC. And then, like a few minutes later, I start hearing these shouting noises in the background, and I'm like, "What the heck? Like, do you live in a noisy neighborhood or something?" And it took me about a minute to realize, but I realized those screams were actually coming from Backfire. And I'm like, holy crap, like he's in trouble and he's screaming for help. He's like, if you've ever heard a man scream for help, like it's so distressing. Anyway, he's yelling at the top of his lungs. He's from the mic distance, you could tell he's quite far away from the mic. And he's screaming, help, I broke my leg. And I'm like, oh my God, I gotta do something. This guy lives on his own. Like, I gotta do something. So I called the police and I highlighted the entire US Discord, as you see here. And like, we tried to send help, essentially. So we tried to all I had was his name and I knew the state he lived in, and that's it. And that's all I had to go on. But the combined might of the US Taiko Discord in 15 minutes was able to find out his address, send an ambulance his way, and and he's okay now. In fact, actually, it wouldn't have mattered because someone actually walked by, but we were about 5 minutes away from happening, and we got confirmation that he was okay. Turns out he didn't break his leg; he pulled a muscle, but I mean, it must have hurt. But yeah, so the whole map pool selector unable to claim hazard pay was that map pooling can be a really dangerous job. Like, it's very dangerous. It's a lot of risk involved with map pooling, as I'm sure we've heard in recent events. But yeah, so very dangerous. And but he was unable to claim hazard pay on it because he.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunate. Backfire actually is a participant in this quiz, so this was kind of a free point for him and his team. But yeah, not many people were able to get this because, it wasn't explicitly clear that it was related to Taiko or anything in that matter. So it was quite a difficult one.
Leg count is at 2.
All right, and moving on to question 29, we have a history question about the OS Taiko and the OS Catch game modes. So the oldest scores of each game mode do not correspond with the order of game mode introduced. What was the cause of this and why? And the reason was that back in 2009, when the game mode, or 2008 or something, when the game was introduced early on in the history, basically Taiko slider behavior was abusable. So you could mash Taiko sliders like in the official Taiko no Tatsujin Taiko no Tatsujin games. And basically what happened, what people did was had a macro and just spam the sliders and get ridiculously high scores. Obviously, that's not intended behavior. That's why sliders in Taiko today, we have slider ticks. So you can't mash the sliders. But because of this early behavior, all the historical scores had to be reset. And thus, even though OS Catch was introduced after OS Taiko, the latest Taiko reset happened to happen after the latest Catch reset. Sorry, this is really convoluted. But basically, there was the last score reset we had was in 2009, September. And that's why you won't be able to find a score before this date, even though there were existing scores before then. And that there are Catch scores before then as well. So that was the reason. So a bit of history. This one's a little bit on the boring side, but it's quite interesting that, you'd expect that, you know, the history of scores looks the same for each game of standard Tiger Catch Mania, but it's actually not the case. It's actually flipped. It's a little bit interesting. All right.
Question 30 is amazing.
Dude, this was expensive. This question was expensive. But
this
anyway.
is the fun one.
Yeah. So here are 3 remixes of the same song done by some of our featured artists. So in order to get credit, you needed to identify the original song and the corresponding FA that did each remix. So for the first remix, we'll let it play. Okay, it didn't play. Let's try that again. Right, that was Oishi. So well done to those who got it right. I think this was the easiest one, but a lot of people.
Yeah, couple in chat there. If you recognize these songs, feel free to spam it in chat as well, as you're hearing them now.
Yeah, a lot of people were stuck between Umeboshi Chazuke and Oishi, so they weren't sure of either. But this was probably the easiest one.
Yeah, both have a really like distinctive kind of chiptune kind of sound.
I think Oishi stylizes his own music as creamcore, I think, or was it? I think it's called creamcore on the FA listing. So that's kind of cool. Moving on to 30B. Okay, it didn't play. Let's try that again.
Okay, pretty long one there in comparison to the first one, and I've seen certainly a few people getting it right in chat. This one was, of course, Silent Room.
Yeah, so actually, when I did the outreach emails to these artists, I said, I'm only looking for an artist's sketch, sort of like an artist doodle. Like, you don't need to put that much effort into it. Just like a 30-second remix will do. Just enough to satisfy the ranking criteria or something. So if anyone wants to map this, but SR, like he makes a full 75-second track, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, this song slaps. Like, oh my god.
They're actually good songs, yeah.
It's so good.
That's really good.
Yeah, but
and I see someone saying they're pretty easy. Well, the third one, we'll wait until we hear that one.
Yeah, so let's hear the third one. Okay, let's try that again. No, that's not the third one. There we go.
Okay, so this one is incredibly, extremely, ultra, extremely evil on Mango's part, because the third one is you. You wasn't even on the official featured artist listing until the quiz started, but he counted because he was a featured artist during the quiz. And yeah, so this was really obvious if you looked at released featured artists during the quiz, but not if you looked at only the ones that yep.
Yeah. This was like the funniest part, like one of the funniest parts of the entire quiz, because Mango did the absolute mad lad move of contacting the features artists like weeks, like months before they were even announced as featured to get this made.
So I had the benefit, I had the advantage of being able to contact you because I worked with him for developing when we were making RPG for the OWC 2021 Grand Finals tiebreaker, and sort of I just slid into his DMs on the side and say, "Hey, you want to do a little bit of a doodle for for this quiz I'm running?" And then, oh my god, what's going on in the chat? So basically, we just got this. You was happy to provide this little remix of question 30, and so no one, as expected, no one got this right. Although some people, in hindsight, after the quiz was over, they're like, "Oh, like I bet it's some unreleased FA. Imagine if it's some unreleased FA." And then, cool fact though.
Announced in the middle.
Yeah, we perfectly timed it, right? Because basically, I knew that the quiz had to start before a certain date, and I knew when you would get announced as FA because of his tiebreaker thing. So yeah, it was perfectly timed, and it kind of revolved around this whole thing.
Yeah.
So sorry for being evil, but it was really funny, and
it was really it was hilarious. Actually.
Yes.
So, also meant that it was literally impossible to 100% the quiz before like a week into it.
Yeah, so there was no way you could know. So you could only have gotten it like 2 weeks into the quiz. Speaking of the remix, the first part of the question actually stumped a lot of people. Everyone seemed to think it was Nekadek Circles, but in fact, this is not Nekadek Circle. It is actually Triangles by Sysix, which is a remix of Nekadek Circles. So this is a remix of a remix, although I'd like to think Triangles is more of a reimagining. But yeah, so for the people who guessed Nekadek Circles, hard luck. There are
if you work up the tree of remixes, then if Triangles is a remix, then it's not the original song. Come on, Mango.
Yeah, it wouldn't have affected the results anyway, but yeah, so
Can we start another angry Mango angry in the chat?
So yeah, this was a very difficult question, and but all the FAs are happy for you to use the songs. Like if you want to rank a set, go do that. That'd be quite cool to see. Now that you have the metadata of the song, you can actually qualify a map. So
just cool. Put the artist name and Triangles, and you'll be good.
Yep. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is going to feel like a repeat from last year, but we've reached the dreaded insane category.
Yep.
Which is like this gaping void where questions start to become impossible. And
so insane was actually, again, for the second year in the row, the category that was answered the worst. Like the least amount of correct answers in insane.
And I don't think this is necessarily because it was harder than extra. It's just because, as Mango was saying throughout the quiz, people were putting more effort into extra.
Yeah, I think extra does kind of just get your attention more due to how it's written and all that. But anyway, we will move on.
So 4 points each. And for the first question, Potassium, take it away.
Yep, so question 31 here. You are a veteran tournament player. You leave your wallet with your friends and you come back to a Happy Meal. Who are you? So this one, a lot of people managed to identify that you are in fact Rustbell, also known as Spro or Sprosive. So this the story behind this was during a 2015 or 2016 meetup, somewhere around that time, in Guangzhou, China. Rusbel and a group of friends went to McDonald's for lunch, and he decided to step outside to check out a nearby electronics store and left his wallet with his friends told them to order for him, basically. So when he got back, as the question said, he finds that his friends bought him a Happy Meal. So since then, it's been a little bit of a running joke within some communities.
Yeah. As you can see, everyone also was able to buy Rusbel a Happy Meal. So actually, everyone's in the chat right now, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he is. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. So yeah, Rusbel is the answer to this one.
All right, so this one's pretty epic. So, question 32. During the early years of his tenure, which user had an odd quirk that might have gone unnoticed by someone who was colorblind? So, the answer is Zetrot. So, before 2014, he was both a member of the BAT and the GMT at the same time. His default group was set to both at the same time. So this resulted in the odd occurrence where his color would switch between red and green every time he made a new topic on the forums, which notably received confusion from some people. And if you go back on the Wayback Machine, you'll see him constantly switch colors between red and green between the years of 2013 through 2016 and whereabouts, despite not changing user groups during this period.
And so colorblind, the most common type of colorblindness is red-green colorblindness. And so this is something that you may not have noticed if you weren't able to distinguish those colors. Hence, Zetrot being the answer. There's a couple other additional pointers as well. This question could have been very easy if you paid attention to the word tenure, which is typically given to people like professors in universities and stuff.
And he's the professor of the OS Academy.
Exactly. We only have one professor on OS, and that's Zetrot. And he's retired, isn't he? Well, no, he's GMT right now. So actually, class is still in session. All right.
Okay then, question 33 here. We're going back into the deep depths of the Mania tournament community here. Which team was eliminated from a tournament because a user forgot their password in the middle of a match? So some people may remember the answer, of course, here being Team Lolly from the, just bringing up the full name, the 2v2 tournament, Thonking Mania tournament, abbreviated as 2TMT, which was a tournament in December 2018. So the story behind this goes that in the finals, between two teams, one of them being Team Lolly, the other one being, apologies if I can't pronounce, 3 Argentos y Medio.
Argentos y Medio. It means 3.5 Argentinians.
Yeah. So during that match, basically, there was some suspicious scores going on from Team Lolly, and the other team, or some people on the other team, were obviously very suspicious of this, notably Juan Crystal and Walter Toro being GMTs themselves. They notified the internal server of the suspicious actions, and there was evidence found of multi-accounting in the middle of the matches. So what happened was the password of some of the accounts were reset, and obviously because they were reset, the players or the account sharers were unable to log in, and because of that, and obviously the restrictions that occurred as a result, the match was won by the Argentinians.
What a way to go.
Yep. This ended up being quite a large mass ban as well in Malaysia, because it turned out that a lot of the players that were, because this, important to note actually that I forgot, this was a 4-digit tournament. So players that were 3-digit or better were not allowed to play. So the idea was that some of the Malaysian team were sharing their accounts with much better Malaysian players that were unable, that shouldn't have been able to play in the tournament. So a lot of Malaysian players got banned, and the Mania World Cup team the next year was significantly weaker as a result.
Yeah, so while writing this question, we were trying to juggle what the best way to approach this question was. And at one point, we decided, like, we scrapped an idea, which was to say, how did, like, a team win by restricting the opponent? But we felt that was kind of, like, a bit too mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, so...
This was really tricky as well, because the password thing is not what many people think of when thinking about this. This is actually quite well known within Mania communities, but the password bit, not so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so the answer to question 34 is the law. Please do not discuss this question in the chat. The explanation can be found in the trivia server if you are curious.
Yeah, it's just for the sake of the stream, but a bit of shame, but this is my favorite question, actually. And there was a lot of hints about it as well. But rapidly moving on, question 35. What deliberately random act did a former #1 player do to prove that a map did not break ranking criteria? And this is a Taiko-related question. So this is Taske's Near FC on Dungeon Music by Sakura Burst, randomized. So this question was actually phrased differently when the quiz was released. It was like, what described only as a pro gamer move? Like, what did a rank 1 player do? Blah, blah, blah. And so on this music, on this map by ISOC, it features some very low SD. And it was so low, in fact, that one of the moderators, Genjuro, thought, well, actually, I think this might break ranking criteria because the notes overlap so much that you can't see the previous note, and therefore it's unplayable, and therefore it can't be ranked. And then ISOC plays like, oh, yeah, I can do it, like, but it's his own map. And then Taske comes in, former rank 1 player. He's like, I'm going to randomize the map. I'm going to make a completely random map, change all the colors random. I'm going to... Oh, that didn't play for some reason. There we go. He's going to change all the colors, randomize all the reds and blues, and he's just going to FC the map, or at least nearly FC the map. So, yeah. There you go. You can see him. Yeah, it's so crazy. Like, come on, how do you read this? Like... Like, you can't even see the color behind the note. I don't know. Just Japanese players.
You just need to get better at reading.
It's proven to be readable. It's skill issue, really. This is actually a pro gamer move, though. I like the original question.
Yeah, and then it gets a bit more reasonable. But the first, as you can see, he completely FC'd the first section, which was the bit that was considered not playable. So this was a deliberately random act. So random meaning he randomized the notes, and it's deliberate because Taske randomized it on purpose. Taske's a former #1 player, and he did this to prove, or at least help elucidate, help support ISOC the fact that, this map is completely reasonable because I'm really good at the game. It's totally doable. Which I think is not the best example, but hey, Genjuro said, oh, I guess it's doable then, and he kind of just backed off. So this is, that's Taske things. Seriously though, #1 players, all the former #1 players are crazy. All right, and moving on to question 36. Now, this one's a bit of an interesting one because it's obviously a bit of a reference to last year's question 44, which is the Doomsday Captain XN couch question. And I took inspiration from that and heard a bit of story, and I decided to take it back this year. So this year's question, how did Bubbleman and Dusta share a fridge without ever getting to use it? So again, a UK and a German player, both top players. So, what's the story this time? So, how did they share a fridge? This took place in COE 2018, and it happened on the Bring Your Own Computer desks. So, let's dive right in. So, let's take us back to 2018. Right here, we can see a photo of the bar that COE 2018 took place on. And we'll zoom in this photo, right? And we'll see that on the left here, we've got Dust Ice. And on the right here, we only see the top half of his face, of his head. But we believe it's Bubble Man. And we have some photo evidence of the time to corroborate that his hairstyle matches. So we think it's Bubble Man. We're pretty darn sure it's Bubble Man. And the other person in this image is Kagami, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so we have two amazing players sitting opposite each other at the Bring Your Own Computer desks. Dust Ice on the left and Bubble Man on the right. And essentially, if you look at the perspective of this photo where the pole is, there is a fridge that was right next to the pole. So there's a fridge in between the pole that separates Dust Ice and Bubble Man. And this fridge, what is the story of this fridge? Well, basically, on the 4th day of COE, a Dutch player by the name of Woos decided, hey, you know what? The drinks at the venue are kind of pricey, so I'm just going to buy a fridge because, like, that's totally not expensive. And I'm going to bring it to COE. So he literally bought a fridge and brought it to COE, right? And then hoping to refrigerate their own drinks at the venue to, like, save money. Fortunately, the bar staff said, like, no, like, you can't do that. Like, and so the fridge remained boxed and it was placed next to this pole. And it was used as a coffee table of sorts. And where was it placed? As you can see in the photo, it was placed between, well, at least according to this photo, it was placed in between Bubble and Dust Ice's where they were sitting. Now, this happened 3 years ago, and I spoke with Bubble and Dust Ice afterwards, and it turns out like there's a couple more interesting tidbits to the story, and we can't really exactly confirm the details. It's Bubble Man was actually spent most of the time in another room, apparently, but there was one point in time where Dust Ice and Bubble Man shared a fridge between them as a coffee table without actually getting to open the fridge. So, I mean, I don't think this question should have been an insane. It should have probably been an extra, but or beyond that, potentially. This is such a random piece of knowledge.
I mean, people are saying it's literally impossible. People did get partial credit for this.
Yeah,
there was also an alternative answer people submitted concerning a Reddit post, which I will link in the chat now. So this is a meme post on Reddit of the Bubble Man fridge, where there's a bunch of badges on the fridge of Bubble Man's, and Dustus has some of the same badges. So in that sense, you could say they got to share that fridge without sharing it too.
Yeah, and naturally, like last year, like with Doomsday and Captain XN, neither Bubble Man or Dust Ice were aware of this, or would they be able to make the connection? So you can just go to Bubble Man, hey, when did you share a fridge with Dust Ice? Because, you know, that's the whole point of this question. So it was just borrowing the format from last year. We didn't actually expect anyone to get this, but the people you could have asked to get this was Cavo himself, who runs COE, and Woos. So those were the 2 points of contact, and it's kind of yeah.
Doesn't work. I have to send Puffbuck the link. Okay, I have to pull up Puffbuck. Here. Let everyone see the magnet fridge. Okay. And yeah.
Yeah, here's the story, but if you replay, I won't stick on this too long because I've literally described what the story says.
Alright, so apparently nobody got this. So we were trying to come up with our last question. We had one last slot left, and we were kind of desperate for material, so this is more personally related than the average question to our helpers here. So question 37. How did pimping out Peppy's ride lead to a one-sided war within the Beatmap nominators? So, during 2017, 2018, we were moving from the old forum modding to the current modding discussions we use now, and there were several passes moving maps from one system to the other. And this was noted in the form of BanchoBot leaving a message on the set saying, yeah, this is moved, this is the old link, yeah. And around the same time, I was curious about whether BanchoBot could get kudos. You could upvote him, it would say on the map history, oh yeah, Bancho got kudos. And through the above messages, by the way, Mango, please show the images. Through the above messages, among others, it was possible to give Bancho kudos. But you still couldn't tell exactly how much he was getting because there's no modding information tab for Bancho. He doesn't have a profile page. And BanchoBot is also known as Bancho Boat, and that's Peppy's ride. So thus, I started this trend where I went and upvoted a BanchoBot over 1,000 times in one night. Don't ask me, I might have gone crazy that night. And this inspired other people to support the cause and also start upvoting BanchoBot whenever they saw him. And eventually got on the leaderboard, confirming, yeah, BanchoBot is getting kudos, it can be on the leaderboard. Congratulations, BanchoBot, on being top 50 of the kudos rankings. So, throughout this, a BN by the name of Pimp G was staunchly against this. It's kudos abuse, it's misuse of the system. And he led a one-man campaign to deny every kudos that was awarded to BanchoBot. His initial attempts were unsuccessful because there were so many people at this point upvoting Bancho all the time, but he eventually contacted Peppy on GitHub to long BanchoBot from receiving kudos. And yep, BanchoBot for BN, he's the best modder ever. He's always there. He's always on every DQ, come on.
How does it feel when a literal bot account has more kudos than like 99% of like active mappers? It's crazy. So, but yeah, this is a thing that happened. But yeah, as Noffy pointed out earlier, this was the last question to be written. And, yeah.
People actually noticed that Bancho was on the kudos leaderboards, like other people, and they actually like posted to Reddit about it, and they were like, what the heck? What? How? So that's the saga of the pimped out ride being Pimp G and the ride being Bancho Boat.
Yeah.
And the war in the BNG with some people upvoting Bancho and other people denying his kudos.
Okay, so the next one here, question 38. What is the origin of the wired network of players? So this one had a bit of a hint to it as well, being that there is an anime reference in here. So the answer to this question was the Mania player Nakano Yuko. And the anime reference you might have noticed is the words "the wired." So the wired refers to an anime called Serial Experiments Lane, very good anime by the way, where the wired in the anime is a kind of internet dimension, kind of. Basically the internet, like a massive network. And within the anime, this symbol, it represents the wired. And there is a website up on our, like in reality, in our real internet, that is this, the Wired 2.0, which has a website, and it's like a secretive group. So, like that kind of secretive group, there is an Osu collab within certain Mania players' what's it called, descriptions on their user profiles. Yep, profiles. That's the word. Where they all have this symbol, and clicking on it links to another user that is also part of the collab. So this started in 2020, and it's still on right now. There are currently 29 members, including some pretty notable ones, being Jakads, the #1 ranked Mania player, and some higher ranking players like Scala and Vigatron, and all that. Mostly 7K players. But this is basically a full loop. So if you keep clicking on the user page, those images, the wired images, it'll go in a full circle. And the one that started it is Nakano Yuko, who has the different colored one, the white one, on the profile.
Yeah, and that indicates he was the one who started this whole collab. So he is the origin of the wired network of players. It's a closed loop. So yeah, we stumbled across this, and I was exploring Jakaz's profile, and I clicked on it, and I'm like, what is this train? Like, what is this rabbit hole I'm going down? Because I was clicking through the profiles, and then I just went to another profile, and then went to another profile, and there was like 20 something profiles, as you mentioned earlier. It was a closed loop, so very interesting. It has zero significance, but it's just really interesting. Like, and it was kind of like you know it or you didn't. Like, people would ask like, "Oh, what is this image?" And it was sort of a in the know thing. So that's a very interesting premise for a collab, because I haven't seen anything like it. Normally, people do profile collabs with like the avatar collabs, but this one was like a collab with having like a closed loop essentially. So that's quite a creative way of doing it. And as members were added, he'd only need to change 2 members, just the last one in the chain and the new member, to link back to himself. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, so to preface this, a bunch of people had the wrong idea on this because they assumed that I was the coffee and that Pishy Fat was the Pishy Fat, and they assumed it had something to do with me and Pishy Fat. I was not involved in this, despite the fact that my name is Noffy Tea Coffee. Okay, just getting that out of the way. Alright, so question 39. When did Pishy Fat break a girl's heart over a cup of coffee? So, there's this thing where hit sounding a map's pretty annoying, so mappers would make tools to help do it, like copy hit sounds from one map to another, so you don't have to hit sound every diff in the set. So the answer is Pishy Fat unranks a map that used a hit sound copier that breaks OS catch SR. So what happened was, one of these tools was in 2015, WCX 199.111.23 wrote a hit sound copier program in Java, also known as a cup of coffee. And the program would rewrite a map onto a single line in the osu file, which for some reason, when you converted the os map to catch, it would cause the star rating of the catch convert to inflate by a ridiculous amount. And this was a relatively unknown phenomenon, which was the cause of a few disqualifications throughout the years, until the map, Hello, Happy World, High Five Adventure. So this is the girl here. This is the beautiful girl in the background there. And this map passed through qualified, and it got ranked. But it was like the hard difficulty had this problem, and it converts to like 2 stars in catch. But with the bug, it was way higher, and it was worth like 200 pp. So the cup of coffee is Java, the girl is the girl in the background, and breaking a heart is typically synonymous with disqualifying a map, but unranking uses the same icon. So the program and a response from Peppy can be found here, because Peppy got involved, and he was like, yo, don't use this program. It will... Warning, do not use this. It breaks beatmaps, and will require your map to be unranked indefinitely. And then he locked the thread. So that is how a innocent hit sound copier caused quite a stir. And Pishy Fat did the disqualification post on that. So.
Yeah, this is nothing to do with Pishy Fat's love life, although I remember a very funny incident where Pishy Fat was approached by someone saying, when did you break a girl's heart? And then Pishy Fat responded, like, but I don't know, but I could ask the same question to you. And then the person asking the question started reflecting, and it became just really sad. It's like, oh.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like, oh, no. But yeah, that was a thing that happened. And when Pishy Fat said that to me, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry.
So people that searched through the DQs that Pishy Fat did, they had the right idea, they just didn't find the right map.
All right, and with that, we enter the boss question of the Insanes. This is the artwork question, taking a step up from last year. It is, if you thought question 30 was expensive, this was about more than like 2.5 times more expensive. Okay, right, so the following question features 4 artworks depicting various members of the OS community. Identify the context of the niche along with the artist who drew them. Now, before we start the revealing answers here, can I just say, not a single team got any artist right, and that's really sad. I think artists do a lot in the community. They do the fan art, they do all sorts of stuff, and then not a single team got a single artist right. Like, how is that even possible? There were like 100
Unfortunate.
But that being said, I did source the artist from a wide variety of backgrounds. So no pun intended, but so you'll see very shortly what each of these artworks, and a bit of a fun one. So Exhibit A. In Exhibit A, we have this thing. This is Axarius with a rice cooker. This is the name of this masterpiece. Okay. The artist is Siu, who is a well-known tournament graphic designer. Although I think she hasn't done, I don't know how active she is these days, but back then she was known for doing many of the graphics in, for instance, Konyo Cup, and which you can see on the badge of the rice cooker. And the context of this is just happened in a random voice chat where Axarius decided to show, hey, check out my rice cooker. Because you totally do that. And you can see here is the source image. You can see Axarius, a very pixelated image, but you can see him holding the rice cooker. We've also, Ali was able to take many creative liberties. You can see the rice cooker is the same, but the badge bit is replaced by Konyo Cup, and instead of, I think it says rice cooker 2 instead of Konyo Cup, or something. I can't remember the original text on the Konyo Cup badge, but and the hit circles as well, very creative. She used Axarius's skin's hit circles as the hit circles to point this towards Axarius. So that was one of the ways you could get this. So this is Axarius with rice cooker in Exhibit A.
I just love seeing the two pictures next to each other.
It's so funny.
It's so good.
Real deal versus the anime Bishonen.
Oh my god. Potassium, you want to take Exhibit B?
Okay, let's have a look at it. So Exhibit B here, we have little bit of a bunny picture, and we've had quite a few different guesses as to who this is. The title that Mango thought up for here is Bunny Singing Lemon. So as you can see, there are little lemons in next to the microphone in the image. That was kind of a hint. This is actually Val0108, the mapper, singing the song Lemon by Kenshi Yonezu.
Right, and I want you guys to prepare your ears for 30 seconds of some of the most amazing, wholesome singing you've ever heard. Oh, wait, that didn't work.
So this clip was originally posted on Twitter, and the bunny singing lemon part was pretty close to the actual Twitter caption. And I remember Mango asked me before putting the quiz results together, it's like, hey, do you know what song it is in this video? And I'm like, yeah, it's Lemon. They mentioned it in the tweet.
So Val is such a, how do we say, community treasure. One of the community treasures. And artist is Crowy. So for those of you who don't know, Crowy is the one who is responsible for designing Mocha. So she's the one to come up with the original concept. And she also did some artwork for the World Cups in the 2019 series. There was some splash art involved in there. So so first artist, Ali, from the tournaments, Crowy. Here we got a mascot artist. So yeah, Bunny Singing Lemon. You also notice that the letters of each exhibit match the first letter of the title of the art piece. So Axarius with rice cooker for A, Bunny Singing Lemon with B. So what could the third one be? Now this one I know has been bothering a lot of people. This is a legendary piece of artwork. Yeah, when you see it, literally. And this is the only, in my opinion, the only meme that is worthy of actually using 727 because it's actually correct. The correct usage of 727. Right? When you see it. This is Cookie Z versus Raphis. And the artist is the community favorite Tofu Mag. And the context is Cookie Z versus Rafis, the battle for #1. Now, before we play the video, just some context. Obviously, this is like Dio versus Jotaro, like drawn in the style of that, except it's Cookie Z in Saitama's uniform outfit holding a CTL, whatever tablet Cookie Z uses. I'm sorry, I don't follow Cookie Z. And then we have Rafis in a Boros costume from One Punch Man, like, you know. And in his left hand, he's holding a bottle of Suppliko. So, like, this is the most beautiful image in the background of Blue Zenith. So, what is the context of this? Let's play this video.
さすがに強いな。このボロスと互角に戦える者はお前が初めてだ。体内にある莫大なエネルギーの放出。ザコがこれに触れれば骨すら残らん。後ろ手だ。元通りだ。それに対してお前は傷が増すばかり。体力も徐々に減っている。うるせえ。ペラペラペラペラと。もう終わりなのか。戦いは。
Anyway, I'd love to watch the whole video, but we don't want the stream to last forever. And but honestly, videos back in this era, in the 2014, 2016 era, like people were making these videos. We don't see these videos anymore, and it's such a shame. I really wish we see a resurgence of these videos because I don't even know what to say. It's such a glorious time, and people were crazy. I remember videos of like Kurokono Basket or something like. Angel Sim versus Cookie Z and all this sort of crazy stuff. We'll skip ahead to the relevant bit, but basically towards the end we have the bit where why is it Blue Zenith? Oh,
だったらこっちも切り札を使うぜ。必殺マジシリーズ。マジマグリ。
And there's the 727.
Yeah.
True 727.
What a
massive throwback to old Reddit memes.
Yeah, but this is something else. And finally, 40D. Noffy, do you want to take this one?
All right. So for Exhibit D, so we're continuing the trend of it starts with the same letter for the name of the image. So DT sends man to heaven. So the artist is Zoodinator. And the context is Beast Troll MC reacting to the Marami Ascension to Heaven DTFC, which was a pretty epic score, and he has a pretty epic reaction here. Look, here he goes. He's...
Man, I worry about BTMC's heart, man.
No! No!
Noticing in the chat, people not knowing ZD can draw.
No! No, 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 no! 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 I don't even give a fuck. He started double tapping at the end, dude. I do not give a single fucking shit. This should not be possible.
There we go.
There we go. There's his hand, so you can see him grabbing his mic and his finger. Oh, oops. Didn't mean to skip ahead there. But yeah, that's the clip when he does that. And look at his face. Just utter disbelief. Yeah. So Zudi was kind enough to draw this, and I thought it would be nice to get an artist from a top tournament player, different background, so different artist and different part of the community. So very cool. All right, 2 hours in, the final 10 questions. Now, I should preface by saying that these questions were not meant to be answered, but somehow some of the top teams were able to, actually answer these completely correctly. Prepare to have your mind opened and extra.
Yeah. And from the very first one.
So this first question, which admittedly I wrote in a way to more well, let's just get on with it. So blue is an imposter. How can he make red look sus? God, I feel disgusting for reading that. And the answer is play any map in Taiko co-op mode with the Among Us Taiko skin and red combo color enabled. So the best way to explain this is just to show you the video and explain as it goes along. So for this particular experiment, we'll be using the Among Us Trap remix. And let's see what happens. So you'll notice that I've set the mode to tag co-op. And this is an unintended mechanic. And as you see, I try and ready up, but you can't actually start the lobby in co-op mode. However, if you type MP start, you can actually forcibly cause the lobby to activate. And you can start Taiko in tag co-op mode, even though you're the only one there. Now, setting a red combo color, in standard, it turns all your circles red. But in Taiko, where red and blue circles are needed, it turns all the circles red. Well, or in this case, the crewmates. So you notice that I'm hitting red and blue, but all the notes are red, which is, and the whole point of this question is blue is an imposter. So the blue notes are not who they say they are, and therefore by donning a red costume, they can make red look sus, or at least that's how this question is supposed to work. And as you can see,
asking about the skin. This is the skin that comes bundled with this map. They made a custom very sus skin.
Yeah, this I mean, this is such a stupid question, and we didn't expect anyone to get it. But then when we released, the hint was released, that made it incredibly easy. Yeah, so we'll skip ahead a little bit here, if this will let me skip ahead. Oops, we'll just skip ahead. Sorry. And turns out you're not limited to using red combo color. You can actually use any combo color if you want. So if purple is feeling sus, you can just use purple combo color. Anyone, you can do this right now if you want. So check this out. Oh, wait. God damn. Let's try and get this to appear in the right time. There we go. Looks, you can have fun with your purple crewmates. And you can do it with yellow as well. And all the other colors. Honestly, when I saw this, I couldn't stop laughing for a good 10 minutes. It's the most ridiculous thing. The funniest thing you can do in Taiko, to be honest. But a bit of context, just a bit of history. But it's unclear when this thing was discovered possible. But it's no later than 2018, and people have been using co-op mode to play mode-specific maps. It has some very interesting behavior, and if you're interested, I can talk more about it after the stream. But yeah, so for something unintended, the mechanics actually work surprisingly well, and the players alternate between new combo. Obviously unintended in Taiko, because new combo isn't really relevant. But yeah, so that's how blue can make red look sus.
Okay, so the next question here in the extra is, what theory about traction is slowly gaining traction in recent years?
Regaining.
Regaining, that is, yep. So this is a catch the beat question about WNS styles. So the context behind this is, in 2015, EO, who was formerly known as Z-Skill or Fantasy, was a former top US Osu Catch player that originally conceived the idea back in 2015 of W and S styles, which was somewhat of a meme
very
or joke.
loose. As you notice, I'm very loose when I'm moving. See, I try to maximize a lot of movement when I'm moving, okay? Battis, the guy who's specking me right now, has a W style. As you notice. See, Tutovis is also a W style. So you try to move, like, with the notes. You try to move like water, is what I like to call it. It's very flow-like. Snap style is like X-Gon's, mine, and a bunch of other people. That's a good example of it.
Yeah. So as you can hear, W and S standing for water style and snap style.
Right here, as you notice, he'll like directly go in between the notes. Like right here, he's doing W style, but he can switch because he's a hybrid.
So basically, at the time it was created, it was like made as a meme or joke, right? W standing for like water style, like slippery flow and aim, whereas S is snappy with like extremely precise movement. But it's it's catch, you move left and right, right? So it was like a meme initially, and it was treated as such. But in as years passed, W and S styles has kind of stuck around, and in a more general sense, it's kind of actually picked up traction recently, and is treated somewhat seriously now.
Yeah, it's just used as a way to describe the player's catcher movement. So like snappy aim or like smooth, like flowy aim, like is a thing in catch, but like it's used W style, he's S style, but like the whole there are a whole bunch of other things in the original meme video which is just completely made up and doesn't really make much sense. Like the fact that one of the claims was saying your W and S style is determined at birth and you cannot change or something, like some ludicrous claims. But
it's actually you, but that theory doesn't seem to hold much water.
Oh,
sorry, I think one of the teams put that in their answer, and I found it really funny.
All right, rapidly moving on.
All right, okay. So this one was actually somewhat generous with letting you know where to start. So question 43, which character is puzzlingly out of place in an Oriental Blossom? So this relates to the map Oriental Blossom. And the out of place character is Hibi. And you can see that it has some Japanese in its description there. And in the description, if you scrolled all the way down to the bottom, they would be mentioning, this storyboard has a puzzle inside. So it was made with its own custom storyboard for the catch map here. And it had some kind of hidden Easter eggs, one of which would each lead to the next. And this is a really tough puzzle. The mapper had a separate person doing the storyboard, and then the mapper put the puzzle in. And they gave this out to the storyboard server and everything, and they were like, oh yeah, nobody solved this yet. So kind of this idea here is Mango had to get someone to help him solve it, okay? And that was quite something. They were quite smart. The main idea is they would have hidden elements, hidden materials inside of the storyboard code, and like a hidden unused image or text that was set to invisible, but if you changed it the correct way, you would be able to read the message. So after you get the color code, search for it in the storyboard file, you'll find all the objects, and then you change them to actually be visible by changing some of the timing points in the map so that you could actually go in and read the full message, which you're going to see up on the screen in just a second here. So this message wouldn't normally be visible in the storyboard at all. You'd have to change it to find it. And if you go through the unused message, oh my god. This is malfunctioning my brain. It would mention the unused file, and so the unused file, it would never appear in the map, and it had transparency, and hidden in the transparency was the color codes, which led to ASII codes, which led to the alphabet, which would find out about thunders, and then you'll find some thunders in the storyboard, And then if you go through with those thunders, you can find out the kana symbols in Japanese, which is similar to what's in the description. And then if you take out the symbols compared to what's in the description, you'd be left with just Hibby left over. So this is the final answer to the puzzle. It was finally solved after 1 billion years, and one of the teams actually got this.
Yeah, I have no idea how they did it, but they solved it somehow.
Back in the day, I tried to solve this myself, and I actually skipped a few steps, but I never did figure out the final answer.
Okay, technically, the team didn't solve it. What they did was they got to a step in the puzzle, and they're like, we half solved it, and then they just looked everywhere else in the storyboard, and they found a new thing. It's like, hey, this is the next part. And they solved half of it, and then they moved on to the next thing. And they didn't actually do the puzzle, but they got to the answer eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, so that counts, kind of. So this
is hidden in a ranked map. No, and nobody found it when it was qualified, and it's ranked like that to this day.
Yeah, we didn't expect anyone to do this, but they got it somehow. I don't know. All right, question 44. This is one of my favorite questions, although I should have reworded it slightly better because no one got it. So, following a 2-year flight, how many cups of glop did we go through to arrive at a donut? And the answer is 5 cups. Okay, so why is it 5 cups? Well, this is a question about fonts used in the World Cup. So here are the banners for OWCs 27 to 19. So it's OWC 2017, 18, and 19. Each year, the World Cup design changes, as you know, for those regular viewers. And between the years of 17 to 19, the font changed each year. In 2017, the font used was Outbound. In 2018, the font was Glop. And in 2019, the font used was Taurus. Now, rereading this question, it says, following 2-year flight, which is synonymous with the word outbound, like an outbound flight, how many cups, World Cups, of Glop did we go through to arrive at a donut, which is a torus, the shape of a torus? There's so much encryption in here. So following 2 years of outbound, which was how long outbound was used for, how many cups, World Cups of Glop, did we use to finally arrive at the font that we use today, which is Taurus? And if we count the World Cups that use Glop, there are 5 World Cups, and that was the year of the 2018. It was the 5 World Cups of OWC to MWC 4K. Obviously, no one got this, but this was a very interesting question nonetheless. But we could have rephrased it and made it easier, which was following a 2-year flight. Sorry, not a 2-year flight. Following a 2 years outbound, how many cups of Glop did we go through to arrive at a Taurus or something? And that would have made it a bit easier. But I wasn't really sure how difficult this question would be. It was a font question, and the fonts may not necessarily be well known, but it was an extra, so, whatever.
That said, I do really like how it's worded now, how we got to this, overarching linking words to make it seem like a journey through the question.
Yeah, but it makes total sense.
Also, there is an additional, small link between the word flight and Flight being the designer of the World Cup graphics.
Yeah, which is a link that some people picked up on. They thought Flight was referring to the art, the designer, and the cup. Some people thought the cups were referring to the World Cup. So there was some progress made, but I think the logical deduction was too big here, so no one was able to make progress.
Yeah, so Flight was kind of like a double hint.
Yeah. Moving on to 45. What kind of person would have a rough time frying vegetables with assorted fish balls? And the answer is any regular Osu player from Hong Kong or any other Cantonese-speaking country. Now, this is a question about Cantonese slang. So, finally, the mystery is revealed. So, what is frying vegetables? So, frying vegetables is pronounced cao chai in Cantonese, and it is slang for single tapping, as this demonstrated in this incredibly appropriate GIF where you can see he's frying, it's probably not vegetables, but he's doing things with one hand. And it's supposed to simulate single tapping. And fish balls, or yudan, in Cantonese refers to streams. As you can see in Hong Kong or sort of Southeast countries, fish balls are normally sold on skewers, and they look like taiko notes. Hence the slang fish balls being used to substitute for streams. So this question really reads, what kind of person would have a rough time single tapping assorted streams? And assorted streams could be mixed streams. And so the answer is, well, pretty much any regular Taiko player would not like to single tap regular streams, because it's just, if you single tap like a mixed stream, it's just going to be a recipe for disaster. And when we say regular, we mean no rolling, because a rolling player would be able to hit the streams for those Taiko players out there. It's more the traditional alternating players. So, so this is the question. So, yeah.
Now I'm hungry.
We're almost there. There's only 5 more questions.
Okay, so we move on to question 46 here, one that no one got, of course. So, how was an entire game mode robbed of an advantage they never even knew they had? So this was an evil, evil question of trivia that essentially doesn't exist. So this is the story about Osumania Score V1 Mod Divider. So if you were to go on to the Osumania score section of the wiki, you'll see this page that kind of details how Score V1 is calculated, basically, all of these variables involved. And if you zoom in a little bit, you can see that there is one variable called Mod Divider. Now, Mod Divider is applied to the mods Hard Rock, Double Time, Nightcore, Fade In, Hidden, and Flashlight. And essentially, what it does is that for all of these mods, if you get a bad judgment, having one of these mods on makes it so that you are penalized less. So there is somewhat of a running multiplier in Score V1, and if you were to get a bad judgment, the multiplier would decrease. So if you have Hidden on, for example, hitting a note badly would actually have a lower penalty than if you didn't have any mods on at all. So it is an advantage directly for Hidden and Flashlight players, for instance. However, the actual impact of it is so ridiculously small, it actually turns out to be about 100 to 200 points from the scores that we tested. So it's virtually impossible to actually notice by yourself.
And if I could interject there, and because it's so hard to notice, in Mania, it's pretty much considered an accepted fact that mods don't affect scoring in any way, right? It's widely accepted that mods don't have an effect on scoring. But according to the wiki page, it should do.
Yep.
So let's test that theory, shall we? So
we did test it, and there is more to this story, by the way. So let's test it here. We have a current client, and to test this, you have to hit specific notes in a specific order as well. Your judgments have to be exactly the same and in the exact same order to be able to prove the existence of Mod Divider. So if you look here, Mango has played the same map twice with the exact same hit judgments in the same order, getting 200s there to lower the running multiplier, and both scores here are exactly the same. So that is concerning, because the wiki page says that they should be different. So we have found that in the current day, Mod Divider does not actually apply.
In fact, it hasn't existed for over 5 years, because I dug out the stable fallback client and we tested the exact same thing. Oh, video
B. So now this is a video of Mango doing the same thing in the 2015 client. So here, this is no mod. Remember the score, 587 at the end. And with the same set of judgments here, we get 806, 610. So a higher score, very slightly.
And just for thoroughness, I've done it on Flashlight as well.
Yep. So we can say in 2015, this was definitely a thing. Mod Divider definitely existed, and there was definitely an advantage for visual mod players, for hidden and flashlight players. But if you were to look at scores, you can actually view scores on the leaderboards. And if you view scores on the leaderboards earlier than around the middle of 2016, all of those scores will have a different leaderboard score than what your replay tells you it should be, because of the removal of the functionality of Mod Divider in current client. So the exact date of when this happened was around when Score v2 was introduced for Mania, which appears to have broken Score v1, despite there not being any official update to the Score v1 system. So obviously no one actually found the answer to this question, because Mango and I found it ourselves in the creation of this.
We didn't actually expect anyone to get this, but we needed a hard Mania question, so this was it.
Yeah.
Some important things to know. So basically, to summarize, everyone assumed mods didn't have an effect, but it turns out mods should have an effect, but actually they don't.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
That's the story.
And what's really puzzling, actually, or what's really interesting, is that if you recall, stable fallback wasn't discontinued from submitting scores until like in 2018 or something, or 2019. So there was a period of time when you could actually get higher, well, not higher scores, but less penalized scores by playing on stable fallback compared to stable. You could get higher modded scores, which was a bit of a advantage. Yeah. And it was like a 2-year window when you could do this. But now stable fallback no longer submits scores, and it's no longer supported. So you cannot exploit this anymore. So this is sort of a dead exploit, if you will.
Yeah. Just to clarify from the question in chat, this was not removed intentionally.
Yeah, it wasn't. It just happened and no one noticed, because it was
happened.
So small.
It happened in 2016. It was so small, no one noticed, and it remained unfunctional for 5 years.
Okay, so despite this being an extra, quite a few people had the right idea on this one. I'm glad so many people remembered it. So, question 47. With what adorable creature was a reluctant alliance formed in our final moments? So, the answer is Diva Bunny. So, this question refers to Our Place. So, Our Place was an April Fool's Reddit experiment in 2017, where users could place a single pixel on a canvas that's like 1000 by 1000 every 5 minutes. Sometimes they changed it like 30 minutes, but anyways, every 5 minutes. So communities quickly coordinated efforts, and our OS game was no exception. OS was infamous in the event for occupying a large area near the bottom of the canvas, and this drew the ire of the entire world of Reddit. So some notable factions included Tyler1 and The Void, who sought to destroy it. So there was a whole dedicated Discord server for this, where there was a legendary pep talk that was like actual motivational speaking at its finest. You can find YouTube videos of this online that like motivated like dozens and dozens of people, maybe 100 plus people at once. And OS was initially uncompromising to give up our space, to give up our circle, to give up our big pink zone, and we came back from the brink many times. But towards the end of the event, like it was 3 or 4 days long, we did form alliances, such as with RSAO and the original Overwatch community. So sometime during the second day, they had painted a Diva Bunny, and we took over their space, and then they started painting it back. So this got on the nerves of the top brass of the OS game coordination effort. So on the last day of the event, though, we came to peace. We would resolve our differences and incorporate the bunny as the O in OS, working together to stave off all who would seek to destroy the pink circle in the final moments of Our Place.
Yeah, it's quite a motivational story, as we can see here. We have the Diva Bunny incorporated into the OS logo. It's sort of putting it was in the final 12 hours where we both communities had to settle their differences, and we were able to somewhat hold our ground. Unfortunately, not quite all the way to the end. But as we see, our place. I mean, if it were, I wish it were to happen again. It's quite an amazing event. But yeah, some people were completely dedicated. The general you spoke of, E-Man fan, I think it was, he dedicated his, I think probably like 60 hours out of like the 72 available hours to defending the circle.
He was not alone. I barely slept.
Yeah, like, what a time. All right, and with that, we're down to the final 3 questions. So, question 48. Now, this is another favorite of mine, based on the way it was written. And one team was able to get the correct answer. How they did this, I have no idea. But
absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolute big brain, right?
Brain's bigger than the sun.
So, how would such travel raise your hands towards the light? And the answer is Google Maps, ? So, let's talk about where this question actually came from. So, we start from Cavill Boy's Twitter, okay? Around the middle of this year, in June, Cavill Boy posted a tweet of comparing the background of a Psyche map and a tournament somewhere with a place he actually visited in Japan. Now, this map set, Psyche Raise Your Hands, featuring Such, the background is an illustration of the area just outside Osaka train station. So I figured, maybe, just maybe, I could ask a question that linked the IRL backgrounds between related maps. There was only one other ranked map by Psyche that had a background in an actual place, and it was Hikari no Hoe, although technically it's a Cranky and Lapix remix. But this is the background. So on the top, we have the background for Raise Your Hands, and on the bottom, we have the background for Hikari no Hoe, which translates to Towards the Light. So Cavill had already identified where the image on the top is from. It's just outside Osaka train station. It's a Doyamacho, I think. I'm hopefully pronouncing that correctly. But the second image was a complete mystery, because if you go to the map set and you look at the background source, it links to a tweet, but the tweet is deleted, so you couldn't actually find out where this was from. But this is a picture featuring Such in somewhere in Japan, presumably. So obviously, I didn't have the time to find out where this was, so I turned to the only source of help I could, which was the newly formed Japanese Taiko Discord, right? And I joined a voice chat, and there were like 6 people, and they were like, I asked them, where is this? And over the course of like half an hour, these guys were scrawling all around Japan, trying to figure out the identifying features, which was this giant X in the background. And after a bit of time, this Japanese player called Kitafuma was able to identify the location of the large X building by making an educated guess that this was in Shibuya. And we were able to find this mysterious location with this X building, which is in Shibuya. So we have our locations now. So we've got just outside Osaka train station and Shibuya. So let's look back at the question. Okay, how would Such travel? Raise your hands towards the light. Can be read as, how would Such, the singer, travel from Osaka to Shibuya? Right? It's because it's from this map to this map. How would Such get from map A to map B? And the answer, well, we can ask Google, and Google tells us that it takes about 3 hours to get from Osaka to Shibuya. And that's the answer, by rail or something. I don't know. This was such a ridiculous question, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's so stupid, though.
It's so funny.
It's so funny, but obviously, I was like, there's no way anyone gets this. But this team is like, oh, it's Such, it's the singer. Oh, raise your hand, that's a map towards the light of the Hikari no Hoe. And then they just put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, what the heck is this big brain team?
By far, one of the most impressive things that any team did was to solve this. This was one of the questions. We were thinking which question would be the most unsolvable. This was one of them that we were thinking before would be completely impossible to solve.
All right, and that's question 48. I had a really good time trying to come up with this one, and very glad to see that, you know, people actually made significant progress. And moving on to question 49, we have a repeat from previous years, which is last year we had a calculation question about the angular momentum of the Earth. And likewise, question 49 this year is again a calculation question, which is stating your assumptions clearly determine the minimum number of scores needed to reach 10 kpp on the OS game mode, specifically OS standard game mode. Otherwise, I would have put something else. Now, we had a lot of answers for this one. It was a very popular question, but a lot of people just said, oh, just 4 mod deadly force and you get 18,000 pp. Now,
my favorite was the one where the guy described, oh yeah, all you have to do is just have access to the admin panel and you can just type in your PP and you can have 0 scores and have 10,000 PP. That was
there were a lot of interesting assumptions were being made. Now, the problem with this 4 mod deadly force answer is if you set 4 mod deadly force, what's going to happen? You get restricted, okay? Like, you can't do that, right? You can't just set a 10,000 PP score and get away with it. In fact, we mentioned it earlier today, and I think it was question 26 about how Kebris set a 1500 PP play. In fact, if you set any play that's higher than 1500, you just trigger the auto restrict. So that's why you can't, like, that's not the correct answer. Now, some other teams use the approach of, okay, how about we take the highest existing scores, so like MREX scores and Vaxay's top PP and Mirami's scores and whatever, and we just sum them all total and you get a score. And this was not the approach either, because if you are a fresh account and you set 1,000 PP play, you get restricted. So this is not the answer as well. So to accurately answer this question, one would need to be intimately familiar with how to basically not get restricted. And it's just what is the path to get 10,000 PP without getting restricted? And there are a lot of assumptions you can make, and I'm not endorsing you to look up like the anti-cheat or whatever, but essentially, what is the path that you can do? So you have to start by setting low PP plays and then progressively getting higher and higher and higher PP plays. And so, and effectively, currently, you can calculate, at least according to my assumptions, somewhere about 16 scores. So that was the intended purpose. It doesn't actually matter. It didn't actually matter what your assumptions were, as long as it was under this idea of you needed to set scores in such a way that you wouldn't, get banned, essentially. So that was the principle behind this question. So yeah. Yep. So that's 16. So that's question 49. So what are your thoughts?
Hang on. Is any of the working actually showing on screen or no?
It is. Oh wait, I forgot to click.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. This is the working.
I'm so sorry. I forgot to click it.
Waiting for it to come up. Okay. There we go. 16 scores, and this is the quickest way that was calculated.
At least we determined according to our assumptions, which may or may not be true. Right. And
but they are
yes,
very close to the actual amount.
Yeah, it's definitely more than 12, because you can't do it in 12. There's no way.
And it's definitely not 1.
Yeah.
That was a lot of people saying at the very start of the quiz, wow, this question is so free. Literally just 1 lol.
All right. And finally, for the last question, we have a bit of an interesting situation here, but no one was able to get question 50 correct. And so thus it will remain a mystery for another day. So yeah, this is a bit of a way to end the quiz on an interesting note, but we will not be discussing the answer to question 50 today. So that's unfortunate, but yeah.
It will remain a mystery.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so that's the quiz. We finished. We made it to the end.
Yeah.
We made it to the end. So that was all 50 questions, and that was very difficult. So it's been 2.5 hours.
Yeah, well, we got one more section left here, and it's going to be the winner's ceremony. So we're going to be announcing the teams that did the best, the absolute cracked geniuses that managed to solve as many of these as they possibly could.
Right. So, in 4th place, with a grand total of 40 out of 150, which doesn't sound impressive, but it was just one guy, Ken, solo player.
Team members Ken.
Right? Just playing on his own.
This was insane.
Yeah, this was insane. The fact that he was able to come 4th on his own, just missing out on the podium. Ken was able to come 4th place on his own with 40 out of 150 points. So that's like, what the heck? So well done to Ken.
And there were like around 50 teams as well. So to get 4th out of 50 teams on a solo team and get 40 out of 50, like one of the most impressive like single people in the entire event.
Yeah, he got some questions no one else did. As a catch player, he was able to get 42 right as well, like the WNS Styles one. And so he definitely put in a lot of work. All right. In 3rd place, with a grand total of 50 out of 150 points, we have Sleep Squad.
Sleep Squad, let's go.
This is the GMT team. This is the GMT team, right? So Sleep Squad is made by the GMT Civil Oath, Deadbeat, and Ztrot. And Puff might as well be a GMT. He moderates osulive. So yeah, they did very well. They, being all GMT, they had very far-reaching connections, and they were able to get a lot of the information about the questions. And although I think Ztrot was incredibly busy, so he wasn't able to contribute as much as he could have, because this team didn't actually get the Ztrot question right, which was very funny, I thought. But yeah.
Unfortunate, but still really good.
Literally had the answer in the team and didn't get the answer. Like, what is this? But that would not have mattered, because in 2nd place, well, before we reveal who comes 2nd, let's just say that determining 2nd and 1st place was the most stress-inducing thing. Yeah. Because I had gone through an initial pass of the questions, and the top 2 teams were so far ahead of everyone else, but I didn't thought it possible, because when I actually tallied the scores together, it was literally a tie. It was a tie, and we needed a winner. So I enlisted the help of some of my helpers, and we all subjectively marked the sheets, because a lot of the partial credits were deemed to be like based on how funny or accurate the answers were. So in 2nd place, after much deliberation and averaging the scores of like 3 different markers, with a grand total of 81 out of 150 points. This is like 31 points above like 3rd place. Like, what the heck? We have Untouchable Epic Fail Crew 9000 Nightmare Core Mix. This is the super team consisting of 1103 as team captain, Galactic Light N, who were present in last year's winning team, joining forces with the 3rd place team of last year, Beat 43210, and Backfire. So that's absolutely crazy. The fact that they got such a high score out of
more than half.
Wait, did Backfire get the Backfire question?
Yeah, Backfire got the Backfire question. So they succeeded where Ztrot failed. And all the team members here are known to be extremely resourceful, as was demonstrated in last year's quiz. And this year, they expressed that this year's was significantly harder, but they rose up to the challenge and were able to do extremely well, far above all other teams, with the exception of the final team, and that is in 1st place for a grand total of 83 out of 150 points. So just by 2 points, we have the OS Trivium Quiz 2021 winner, Squidballs. Team Squidballs, what a name. And this is the team members Squidstain, Kodazen, AutoFanboy, and CDH. This team was something else.
They were insane, yeah.
They were insane. They were the team to solve question 43. They were the storyboard puzzle. They were the team that solved question 48, which was the Google Maps question. They had so many interesting insights. And you know what's the scariest part of this team? This team, none of the team members know each other. This was a looking for team. Squidstain comes back from last year having placed 4th in Trivium 2020. I want to play again. And then he goes to like the looking for channel. It's like, hey, anyone want to join my team? And he just picks up 3 random people. And then this is like the super team. Like just 4 random people who've never really spoken to each other before, joining forces, covering a very diverse range. And they just gelled well. They were extremely lucky to have this team banded together. And everyone pulled their weight. Like
it's just
everyone
the
made
mix.
This is it's like the perfect mix. Like I don't even know.
It worked in their favor because they weren't friends before because they were in completely different parts of the community, which meant that they had knowledge from everywhere.
Yeah, that's one of the theories. But yeah, and with the first place title, first place prize comes also with a title, an annual recurring title, and that is the Osh Trivium Quiz 2021 Champion. I believe that's what the title is anyway. It's similar to the it's similar to the World Cup ones. So yeah, congratulations to Team Squidballs for coming first in this ridiculously difficult quiz event.
Yeah, both of the top 2 teams actually were like so ridiculously strong. And it took a very, very long time to separate the 2.
Yeah, it took like 2-3 days to get it was honestly
we had
to decide on the winner.
Yeah, we had 4 individual people go through and mark them. And obviously with a lot of subjectivity and like questions where half marks would be awarded, like partial credit, and some answers that were different to the intended answer, but still were interesting.
It still made sense with the way the question was written in particular.
Yeah. But we're not done yet because
0th place, guys! The plot twist!
0th place.
0th place with a grand total of 84 points is everyone else and Ken. Because without Ken, they'd be at 78, I think. But out of the top 3, so if you ignore the top 3 teams, the collective progress score was 84, which just shows how dominant some of the top 3 teams were. Because, essentially, the top 3 teams got a whole 20 something points above as we'll see later in the final progress check. But yeah, so grand total of 84 points, just 1 point ahead of everyone else. So, yep.
That's approximately 47 teams.
Yeah, so the collective of these dozens of people performed a little bit better than the number 1 team. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you for playing. And absolutely. It was great to see all of you work together and try and find answers. I know some teams had difficulties and some teams had more difficulties than others. But I'd like to think that every team had fun at the end of the day and joining us on the showcase today and finally figuring out having your questions answered at the end of this almost 3-hour long stream now.
Yeah.
With that, we come to the penultimate slide of this scuffed PowerPoint presentation. It's not even PowerPoint, it's Google Slides. So some progress statistics. So this year, all teams collectively scored 111.5 points out of 150 if everyone joined forces. And the questions that no one was able to get full credit on by my own metrics were the following questions. Just for reference. It's just a few statistics. Yeah. And with that, we're done. That's all, folks. And see you next time. See you next year. That's Osh Trivium Quiz 2021. We hope you had fun throughout the month. We hope you had fun today. Thank you, Noffy. Thank you, Potassium. You've been
Thank you, Mango.
Wonderful help Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Charles, and thank you to all the playtesters who helped. We're not quite done because there's a couple final announcements to make, and that is, well, there are two announcements to make. First announcement is that in 3 weeks' time, MWC 7 Key 2022 will be starting with their qualifier showcase. So be sure to be there. MWC 7 Key hasn't been around for, what, 2 years now?
2 years. Yep.
2 years. So it's very exciting to see that happening. And with that, I think until we see you then, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Bye, guys. See you again next time.
Take care.
Bye.